Hello and welcome to the awards video for round 3 of the Cambridge Biology Challenge, which asked you the question, why do we dream and what might animals dream of? Now, normally in these results videos, we start with a quick lecture and look at some answers to the topic, but we're actually going to skip that today. The reason being is that we're hopeful that very soon we'll be able to start providing the winning submissions to all of you online on our website. And if you have won a prize today, you'll receive an email from us relatively shortly with a consent form in which you can, if you want to, allow your entry to be viewed by others. So we think that'll actually be a much more engaging way to find out the answers to these questions and also give you a chance to see what others have produced. We were, as always, and I know we say it every time, but really, really impressed. The judges were absolutely blown away with the quality, diversity, and effort put into these submissions. So thank you to all of you who submitted. You should all be receiving your certificates and perhaps badges and other commendations later today. So without further ado, we'll start looking at this round's prize winners. And the first prize we will award is the prize for Best Essay. We received over 200 excellent essays, and it was a real challenge, as always, to whittle the choice of best essay down to one. But we want to congratulate Yin Chung on producing a really, really impressive essay. Why was it so impressive? Well, Yin Chung took a really systematic approach to this question and decided to focus on 3 hypotheses, which potentially explain why we dream. So, for example, you can see this figure at the bottom here, which shows the results of experiments done on rats. Now, lots of you discuss the experiments with rats in which we can be reasonably confident that rats, after having solved a maze, then dream, when asleep, of solving that maze and sometimes exploring paths that they did or didn't take. And these are called place cells in the hippocampus, particular neurons which activate when an animal is in a specific location. And you can see in that diagram there, the circle shows the activity of the neurons before the rat had a chance to run the maze. The run shows the activity of the neurons whilst the rat was running the maze. But what's interesting are the post activities, the activities of these place neurons after the maze was run. And you can see the overlap between the run and the post, suggesting that the brain was replaying these experiences during dreams. But what's so impressive about Yin Chung's essay was that they didn't just explore the sort of conventional examples that many of you did about rats and perhaps zebrafinches or cats. They went on to look at other hypotheses. So, for example, if we think that dreams are just replays, as the rat experiment suggests, well, that doesn't explain why dreams often have these very strange, confusing narratives and these gaps between observation and reality. And so Yin Chung went on to look at a really quite complicated hypothesis called the overfitted brain hypothesis. Those of you who've done any Bayesian statistics at A-level will be familiar with the idea of model fitting. And when Yin Chung looked at this hypothesis, they outlined some really nice case studies involving people who were asked to play Tetris games and then record to what extent they dreamt of Tetris games. And you will be able to read in Yin Chung's essay how these Tetris dreams helped us test a really exciting hypothesis, which suggests that the role of dreams isn't really to remember what happened, but to try and simulate other likely possibilities and help you learn accurate relationships based off the day's events. Yin Chung then went on to sort of look at some simulated animal dreams, see what the 3 different main hypotheses for dream function would predict about the content of these dreams. We were just really impressed by the quality of the work, the originality of their suggestions, and the way it was presented. So well done. We had lots of excellent submissions for posters, as we always do. There are so many great graphic designers out there. But we thought for this round, the poster with the best scientific value in it was created by Alice's team from Surrey. Now, this is just a small screenshot from a really big, comprehensive poster, but I hope you can see straight away, I'm sure your eye is drawn to these beautiful plasticine kind of neuroanatomy, brain anatomy models that Alice's team used to link the discussions in the text of the different brain regions involved in dreaming to their diagrams. And Alice's team not only gave a very comprehensive discussion of the reasons behind human dreams, but then also looked at pigs and kind of compared and contrasted the structures that we find in pigs to humans. So, for example, pigs have a similar brain structure to humans, with a hippocampus around the same size, and they need about the same amount of sleep as humans, around 8 hours. And they compared and contrasted the REM sleep duration. So actually, in pigs, REM sleep is about 10%, whereas in humans, it's about 25%. And they looked at fish brains and discussed how actually in fish can't enter REM sleep. These animals don't have hippocampus, they don't have a hippocampus, and fish don't display the brainwave patterns associated with sleep in humans. So well done to Alice's team in Surrey. We were really impressed by the effort that went into your poster, and we learned a lot from it as well. Okay, and we had a slightly smaller number of presentations submitted than usual for this round. But there was one clear winner here, lots of great presentations, but an extra special well done to Winona's team from Oxfordshire. Now, this presentation has to be seen to be believed, and we're really hopeful that we'll be able to share this with you soon. But after a quick introduction from Freddie Mercury and Queen, we were then treated to a very, very comprehensive, well-presented, very clear explanation of the potential reasons behind dreaming and why animals might do it, including some live footage of dreaming in one of their dogs and some suggested interpretations. But a really excellent presentation and very well done from us. Okay, on to best video. We had a lot of videos this round. Very, very difficult to pick a winner here. But I think the winning team, I really commend them for their originality. Like all of you, they had to sit down and think, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? Well, where did they get their inspiration from? It's perhaps a Cambridge Biology Challenge first. The first team to get inspiration from a street sign. So they saw this street sign in the local area while they were trying to think about which animal should they focus on, and this suggested they should focus on sheep. They then went to a local farm, learned a bit about sheep, and tried to understand their daily lives, their patterns of activity, to come up with hypotheses about the content of their dreams. But then this is where it got really impressive. They then conducted their own brain dissection of a sheep's brain, lamb's brain. They labeled the key structures which were involved in dream production, and then they compared the size of these structures and what they could find in the literature about their role in dreams between humans and sheep to come up with some, we thought, really impressively grounded suggestions about the content or the possible content of sheep dreams. So very well done to team Paleontologically Speaking. Very impressive entry, really enjoyed it, and I hope we'll be able to share it with you all. Now, best audio. Best audio, we award the prize this round to Isla C from London. Isla submitted an excellent podcast in which she discussed something called cortical defense theory. Now, quite a lot of you talked about cortical defense theory, but we thought Isla's explanation was by far the clearest. This is the idea that we need to dream during the night to ensure that our visual cortex stays active, and therefore the other regions of the brain involved in other sensory experiences don't start to encroach on the cortex, as we see happening in people who are blind. So in people who are blind, we see that their visual cortex shrinks after the injury for people who've become blind sort of as an adult. And the other areas, such as auditory areas of the cortex, take over that region of brain space. And so Isla explores the idea that, well, maybe the reason why we dream is so that we're providing a continual use of the visual cortex overnight, preventing other areas from encroaching on that while we sleep. But all round, and she discussed lots of other things as well. Just a really excellent podcast. So well done, Isla. Okay, next up is the best research. Now, when I put an image up of the best research entry, it's probably going to look a bit overwhelming, but well done to Oliver's team from Gloucestershire. Now, it does look a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of text, there's a lot going on. Why have they won the prize? Well, let's zoom in and look at the 4 different experiments that this team conducted. So Oliver's team started out with an experiment which looked at the link between kind of reinforced memory and dreams, and they did this experiment on their own team members. They tested themselves right before bed and sometimes in the morning after they woke up about whether they could remember the scientific names for these common wild plants. They try to sort of link this to something called the natural forgetting curve, which is our natural rate of memory attrition, and see if they could come up with links between people who had dreams about plants and would they do any better at remembering the plants if you dreamt about them, as you predict if dreams have a function in memory reinforcement. And actually, in their admittedly small sample size, they do see that those who had a dream about the plants had a much easier time remembering and quicker recall than those who didn't. Now, this is just one of, we thought, 4 really, really clever experiments. So, like a lot of you, they tried to see if they could find any links between sort of the emotional events and their dreams and the emotional content of their daily lives. Quite a few of you mentioned having mock exams or class tests and linking that to your dreams. But then some really other original experiments. So experiments which tried to link levels of blood glucose to their sort of dream emotion. So would they have nightmares on nights where blood glucose levels fell? And even then looking at their dog and trying to monitor their dog regularly to check for signs of different dream states. Really impressed. Very well done. Far more than we could ask for. So well done to Oliver's team from Gloucestershire. Okay, nearly done. Just a few more prizes to award. Well, for Clearest Explanation, always a difficult one because so many of you put a huge amount of effort into producing beautifully clear entries. But this time we've awarded the prize to Kwang's team from London. Now, what you can see here is a screenshot from the closing seconds of a very excellent video in which Kwang's team drew out time after time after time some really excellent diagrams which illustrated the points they were making. So, for example, here discussing unihemispheric sleep in cetaceans and thinking about how it might differ to sleep in humans. It's a great video. We hope to be able to share it with you, and we can tell a huge amount of work went into it, and we were really impressed. A very, very clear explanation, excellent science communication. So well done. Next up, it's the Best Biological Facts Award. Always tough to award because so many of you produce excellent biological facts, and we hope that the badges of merit provide a much more kind of balanced reward for many teams which deserve this. We've gone with the Three Musketeers from Cornwall for this round's award. Not only did they produce a really beautifully presented entry, but they were perhaps the team which went into the most depth and also the best breadth when it came to looking at different potential explanations for dreams and then going out into the real biological world and trying to link those principles to actual real biological species, and with some great discussions of zebra finches and those rather disturbing experiments on cats that a lot of you mentioned, where we try and sort of remove the structures of the brain which normally cause sleep paralysis to see what cats do during REM. A really beautiful entry, lots of fantastic biological information there about birds dreaming if they're singing their own songs, and just really, really impressive. So very well done. Most original. This probably created the biggest sort of heartache amongst the judges. This round we had not only several fantastic stop motion entries with sort of paper models or plasticine models, Not only did we have people creating their own AI language-based models to offer responses to the judges when we asked it questions about animal dreaming, not only did we have people creating Lego-based models and all sorts of weird and wonderful contraptions, but I'm afraid we did have to pick one winner, and we've gone with Alexandra's team from Liverpool. Why is that? Well, let me just play you a short section of their entry. Yes, that's right. This is a 3D moving book, and when we paused the video and zoomed in, read the text, and watched the rest of it, we saw they'd managed to create a really beautiful work of art, which not only was sort of excellent aesthetically and had some really clever sort of moving effects, but some great science in there as well. A really beautiful, almost dreamlike entry that we really enjoyed marking. Most entertaining, lots of funny entries as always. We really appreciate the effort that you put into marking 700 entries between the judging panel more enjoyable. But well done to Team Biohazard, who we've picked for this round's most entertaining. I hope that some of you have read books by Dr. Zeus before. Well, we weren't presented with a Dr. Zeus entry, but seemingly a long-lost cousin of Dr. Zeus, Dr. Snooze. Um, and in this entry, which again we really hope to be able to share with you all, we're treated to the story of Tam Tam in the electroencephalogram, a lovely rhyming story, which was written by Team Biohazard. So, we're told the cat will be sleeping when the stars gleam, and we beckon the question of why do we dream? The reason, the cause, nobody agrees, which is why we'll discuss a few hypotheses. And Team Biohazard discussed a number of great hypotheses, all maintaining this Dr. Zeus style sort of rhyming structure. Just a really, really wonderful entry. Must have taken a huge amount of time to put together, but well done. We really enjoyed it, and it's clear that you've learned a lot as well. What was nice with this entry is they backed it up. You'll see the little sort of superscript number next to PGO. Well, at the end of this entry, they had a list of sort of citations and explanations for the scientific concepts mentioned in the work. So those are all our category awards. Now on to the overall winner. Well, it's probably the only time we've ever awarded a prize to a non-human animal. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm delighted to announce that the winner of round 3 appears to be, if we're reading the entry correctly, appears to not go to a human. It appears to go to a cat. We were sent this absolutely wonderful entry, and you can see a picture of this cat here. You'll see his name in a second. Reading a poster from the NVS, the National Veterinary Service, not an organisation we heard of before. We were given some more information about this cat. Apparently, he's called Loki or Loki Bennett. Here's his ID. And accompanying this entry was a letter that this cat had written to the Dream Clinic at the National Veterinary Service. And Mr. Bennett, the cat, described how, unfortunately, he was having nightmares, and he describes how he'd often wake up yowling, his paws twitching and jerking as though he's reacting to a dream. He doesn't like these dreams. They're really getting him down. He's struggling with his mental health. But luckily for Mr. Bennett, he had a very, very impressive response letter written to him from the National Sleep Clinic. We were really, really impressed by the quality of the advice given, the very detailed scientific discussions behind both the mechanisms of dreaming, and then some really impressive sort of species-specific suggestions about what might be going on. So the idea here that, for example, as Loki was a rescue cat, this is more likely to suggest sort of disruptions to REM sleep, and citing some interesting work showing that PTSD levels lead to an increased frequency of nightmares. Just a very, very comprehensive response, which detailed lots of different potential hypotheses explaining poor Loki Bennett's nightmares. Now, we don't think Mr. Bennett did it all himself. He seems to have a bit of help from Holden and Dina in London. So very well done to you three for winning round 3. Big congratulations from us on a very, very impressive entry. So that concludes the results video for round 3 of the Cambridge Biology Challenge. We're excitedly marking your entries for round 4, and congratulations on all you've learnt. Sweet dreams.